Hello, and welcome to the Top 3. This is a new show where Rust builders compete for the title of the best. Today, you will see the 3 best bases that the show participants managed to build over the past month. And not only will you learn how to build each of the 3 bases, but I'll also show you which builders' ideas turned out to be real candy, and where they built just an absolute shit. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned this before. Right, I almost forgot the most important thing. The participants of each episode will share a prize of $150. So trust me, I will analyze the bases very earnestly. This is already the 3rd episode of the format. If you missed the previous ones, links to them are waiting for you in the description. Now we will take a detailed look at 3 new bases. I will show you both successful and unsuccessful decisions made by the authors, and then compare all 3 bases and show what I would personally change in each of them. After the evaluation, we will, of course, determine the winner of this episode. So much work has been done for this video, and you can support my work by simply hitting a like button or subscribing to my Patreon page. A subscription not only opens access to useful content and streams, but also supports this channel. Our community is growing, which is wonderful. Time is running out for us, so let's hurry up and check out the first of 3 bases. Beautiful, secure, calculated, and spacious. This base will surely win the hearts of solo duo players, because it combines all the essential qualities one could dream of. The structure of the base is unusual. We see 4 entrances right away, but access to the main area is through a single hatch. The center of the 2nd floor is spacious and convenient, while the main area of this base is very functional, with 6 hidden loot rooms, 2 full bedrooms, a vending machine, and a helicopter pad on the roof. All these features allowed this base to become the first participant in the 3rd episode. Let's take a closer look at this creation. Upon entering from any entrance, we find ourselves in an endless, narrow, looped corridor with a bunch of doors. In this corridor, we find just a couple of windows to the outside, a couple of simple gun traps, and a refinery zone. A refinery is always good, especially in a small and cheap base. There's no space for large furnaces in this base, but considering that this episode is about solo bases, that's probably for the best. To go deeper inside, we need to use one of the hatches. There are 4 hatches leading from the corridor, 1 on each side. 2 of these hatches lead to dead-end rooms. In them, the author suggests placing chests and optionally medium batteries as well as gun traps. The other 2 hatches are located right next to the entrance doors. Here we again have a gun trap hanging above us, and behind these doors awaits our first garage. Above it is a turret, and if we go a little deeper, we'll reach bedrooms with lockers. There are 2 bedrooms here, allowing for cohabitation in this base. Additionally, there are 2 more turrets here. The 4th turret is hidden behind the last garage. Thus, this main floor is covered by turrets from all sides, which is undoubtedly a plus. On either side behind double doors are shooting areas, but there's nothing interesting there. It's nice that there are windows next to the garages so that neither turrets nor beds can be shot from outside. We go down. Here we find a garage without any bunker, along with 3 HQM doors. The side doors lead to spots for furnaces or barrels. Plus, there's another gem in this base. 2 roof bunkers that open with twig. Each has a barrel inside it. Additionally, there's another battery below. Behind the front double door is a default cube with a cupboard inside. Interestingly enough, this base also has 2 hidden spots that earn it 2 more gems. These hidden spots are located above the bunkers and open by changing their skins. Access to 1 chest can be obtained from both below and above from the bedroom. The other 2 chests can only be accessed by removing doors near the bedrooms. This way, there are 6 large chests hidden throughout the base. Although these hidden spots take up quite a bit of room in the base, it's far from certain that raiders will find them. Right under where we ascend lies 3 electric furnaces where we can comfortably smelt sulfur since they are excellently protected. Now, all that's left is to go upstairs. Here we have an ordinary hatch leading to a garage for helicopters. Next to it are some oddly placed chests behind windows. And behind one door is a fully functional vending machine for drones, which is definitely a gem. By the way, I forgot to give a thumbs up for keeping helicopters safe. That's important. What else can we give this base gems for? For its protection, of course. 2 metal walls leading to bunkers, 2 armored walls leading to the main area as well. Despite lacking a bunker, getting through those doors isn't exactly easy. However, as always with any good base, there are many flaws that we will now examine in detail. The first thing that annoys me about this base is some kind of obsession with double doors by the author. I understand that double doors are convenient and cheap, but having 40 of them in one base is just overkill. And it would be fine if they were functional. However, for the most part, double doors hinder rather than help in this base, so it's double garbage. The next nuance concerns these gaps. They are only closed if you leave double doors open due to structural features of the base. It's not critical, but still unpleasant. The next point concerns the helicopter garage itself. There are no issues with accessing it directly. However, getting into it requires quite an effort. There's no landing pad available. Spikes protrude from below. Plus, no one will open that garage door for you when you're solo. And finally, a rather serious flaw in this base are these stone ceilings on the second floor's center. The issue here is that beneath them lies an unused space concealed by stone ceilings under which lies access to loot in this base. It would have been fine if only they had upgraded it to metal or HQM, but having stone ceilings above reduces potential protection right off by half. And here's why. You breach into helicopter garage, break through hatch, and load rockets right at your feet. You could even chip away at ceiling with C4 first, to avoid excess splash damage. In total, we could breach into all loot with just 15 rockets, along with cupboards on either side, while also partially exposing bunkers. And I'm also giving another shit, due to very lackluster shooting areas. Yes, there seem like plenty of windows, but they all appear quite sad. Again, those double doors everywhere get in your way, so shooting freely won't happen at all. And finishing off our garbage parade are entrances into this base. 4 entrances are undoubtedly cool, but in this case, 3 out of them can be completely disregarded, since accessing center requires crawling through 200 corridors, while ultimately returning back through main entrance. And because there are metal doors everywhere, keeping them open won't work either. To summarize my opinion, it's quite a decent base, tightened up as much as possible, but still needs some adjustments for player convenience. That's what I've been working on over these past 2 weeks, and I think I've done quite well. It's time to look at the modified base. I've redesigned it quite significantly, but the main structure, as always, remains the same. The first thing I decided to get rid of was the parasitic double doors. I left 2 entrances to the base. The entrances themselves have been slightly modified. The combination of shopfront and windows allows you to view the entire area around the doors. And there are now 2 exit doors, both closing with a default airlock. Shortly, it's become safer and more practical. I also removed unnecessary double doors. Now only the essential ones remain. Upstairs, I removed all the excess as well, and replaced the outer doors with garage doors. This improves both the balance of protection and ease of use. Behind the garage doors, the wall is now HQM. Previously, this wall was a vulnerability of the base. I decided to close the exits to the bedrooms with garage doors as well. If you need to safely peek into the center of the base, there's a window here. And thanks to replacing double doors with garage doors, the turrets now cover each other instead of hitting metal ceilings. The side turrets are now not visible from the street even through windows, and the rooms with windows have become more spacious and comfortable. A storage box has appeared above the turrets. In the helicopter garage, there are practically no changes, except that I added a couple of triangles for convenient landing. And now, you can run freely on the roof. In the main area, we have no changes at all. Everything is good as it is. I slightly rearranged the chests in the hidden spots to make them easier to reach without removing any doors. This can be done both from above and below. And the most important question, what happened to the other 2 exits? Let me show you. Firstly, the base has become completely symmetrical, unlike before, so 2 additional buffer rooms have appeared here. This made the construction and memorization of the base easier. These pieces of doors that used to stick out from the street are now gone. This was done because such doors gave away the whole setup, and the hidden spot ceased to be hidden, and also allowed breaking in for 80 explosive ammo. And as a result, there's now such a corridor on the side of the base. Behind the door is a vestibule with a gun trap. Behind the second door is a window. By default, it's open, but in case of a raid, you can barricade yourself here thoroughly. Above is that very hidden spot, and the bed and locker allow you to fight back as long as possible, even when the main area has already fallen. In case enemies are approaching, just block the passage with the window. If they blow it up, move further down the corridor. If the window doesn't seem like enough trolling for you, then boldly change it to a frame and build a shopfront. To blow up this room without going through the doors, you'll have to pick at metal. As for the cost of the base, here's a comparison of the cost of the authors and my versions. As you can see, we added 6,000 stone for the construction of additional vestibules and shooting areas, but saved 3,000 metal on useless doors. It became a bit more expensive in terms of HQM due to the half wall, but this is all for the sake of defense balance. And great news for all builders, now creating your own bases and learning to build others will become 100 times more convenient, all thanks to the new Perfect Build server. Saving, loading, and publishing bases, auto upgrades, symmetry, and all other building wizardry, a bunch of islands for every taste, test raids, building on rocks, lakes and canyons, skins, even those not added to the game. In general, this is a universal and absolutely necessary tool for every builder. Anyone can join the server absolutely free. In the video description are codes for bases from this episode. Just enter these 6 characters in the search on the server and load the base onto your island. Now you can study any base from the inside. And my subscribers on Patreon now get full access to all VIP functions of this server. Just go to personal messages on Patreon and link your account to the server. So yes, if you wanted to know on which server I build and check bases, here's your answer. And I'm ready to show you the second participant of the episode. For your attention, Turbo V1. This base looks more classic. There are no multi-cupboards or compound here, it costs a bit less and seems less protected. But in fact, there are 3 walls to the main area, a classic bunker, a spacious shooting area, a protected, convenient roof with combat areas and functional shops. The base is also suitable for both 1 and 2 players. Builds beautifully in stages, doesn't require special terrain, and, unlike the first participant, doesn't require buying skins. Let's walk through the floors to tell you more about the features of this base. There's only one entrance to the base, without the usual airlocks, but with gun traps. The second door is placed quite advantageously. It won't be easy to depus with such an entrance. We're immediately greeted by quite a lot of places for furnaces, which can't but please, and behind the second garage door is a repair table and a battery, closed with glass. Let's turn back a bit and pay attention to this shooting area. Usually, shooting areas through such a ramp are absolutely useless, but in this case, it opens up a really wide field of fire. With a favorable location of the base, you can counter rocks, some red town, or simply shoot down a raid tower from it. We go inside, opening all the garage doors, we get a rather spacious room. Here you can easily fit 2 beds, there are lockers, a gun trap, and a couple of chests. And this little window allows you to breathe fresh air more often. Next, we have a default bunker on the steps. Under it, classically, 3 furnaces and a little trap, for some reason facing the door. Then a couple of doors and a default 2x1 starter. We go upstairs. Behind the garage door awaits us an exit to the roof through a hatch and a very nice peek to the 3rd floor. It's convenient for us to shoot from it, but the enemy is unlikely to even see us. Definitely a suite for this. On the floor itself, there's a couple of mixing tables and 2 exits to the outer perimeter. This perimeter is looped, quite spacious, there are enough peaks, and in general, for such a small base, in my opinion, it's quite decent. Yes, there are no newfangled features and cheaty peaks here, but who said they must be? And all that's left for us is to climb onto the roof. It's also very spacious here. There's even room for a scrap heli if it's needed. There are a couple of default windows for shooting. The roof is covered by 2 well-placed turrets, and 2 combat areas with full-fledged shops, beds, and chests. Well, it's time to hand out some sweets. Firstly, the 2x1 starter. I hold the position that a solo base must be easy to build, because the start for a solo player is the most difficult stage, and when you have to start with a bunker, pixel gap, or floor stack, it greatly slows down development. Definitely a like for the excellent stage-by-stage approach. Bunker, traditionally a suite, simply for its adequate presence. Shooting area. Yes, nothing special, but you can quite defend the base from it, and for such a price, it seems to be not bad at all. And the combat areas on the roof with vending machines also deserve a sweet each. It seems there's nothing more to praise this base for. Let's pour some brown sludge over it. One entrance. It's a minus, no matter how you look at it. Lack of door check. If there's no skin for a transparent door, anyone can ambush you. I missed a full-fledged convenient loot room in this base. Loot is scattered all over the second floor. There's this strange semblance of a loot room, but to have 4 chests in convenient access, I don't see that. This window, to be honest, I also don't like at all. Fresh air is undoubtedly great, but because of this little thing, you can't keep the garage doors open in the base. You have to constantly control that the doors are closed. Garbage. The third floor seemed very sad to me. In such a small base, giving so much space to mixing tables is not the best idea, especially since the base has a roof well protected by turrets, where these tables would fit perfectly. The author would better use this place for an additional loot room or bedroom. As is usually done, in the current configuration, the third floor turned out to be garbage. But as for the balance of protection, the author of the base clearly tried. I didn't find any special ways to greatly cheapskate and get to the cupboard cheaper than usual. And I will definitely take this into account in the comparative analysis, as well as the complete absence of complex blueprints in this base, like armored doors, windows, high walls, and so on. Well, it seems that there's not much you want to change in this base, but nevertheless, I still tinkered with it for a couple of days, and I'm ready to show you my version of this base. There aren't many external changes. As you can see, the roof and shooting area have been slightly transformed. But inside, the base has become completely different. I didn't change the entrance, as it would have greatly affected the structure. But for additional protection, I added an additional sneaky gun trap behind the door. Instead of the window, a couple of fast drop boxes appeared. The electric furnaces moved deeper, and instead of them, I put a locker so that you can quickly put on combat inventory before a fight. In the center of the base, I added a place for an old workbench so that you don't have to go down to the main area to craft small things. As you can see, the new place for electric furnaces looks like this. You can put 3 pieces here or leave a decent gun trap. If you want more furnaces, you can add a couple more here. A locker used to stand in this place, but now it has moved to the entrance. The main change on the second floor is the appearance of a full-fledged loot room here. Its protection is only 8 rockets, but during the game, it will be very convenient to drop the main, not too valuable loot here. We dive deep into the main area. Here, as you remember, there are 3 more furnaces. The gun trap is now in the traditional corner. If it interferes, you can put it right behind the door like this, but it will work worse. The main area itself is default. There's nothing to change here. Let's go upstairs. The third floor has changed completely. I removed the gorgeous pixel shooting area because there seems to be little use for it here, but a turret has appeared here that controls the entire floor, and a loot room, so that there's a reason to control this floor. The exit upstairs has shifted slightly. Now it's guarded by a gun trap, and it won't be as easy to get through it to the main area as before. There are still 2 exits to the outer perimeter, and it has also changed. For those who have the Frontier pack, I suggest this unusual, quite open shooting area. Its minus is that if the double door is broken, it can't be put back without breaking the ramp. If you need something safer, there's a default peek down. In this case, you cannot put the ramp at all, but it's convenient to aim at pixels in the distance with it. I also left the roofs concrete to get a pixel peek. If you're suddenly worried that nakeds will chip out your roofs with pickaxes at night, you don't have to do this. But who the hell needs your roofs? That's a big mystery. Due to the presence of only 1 exit in the base, I had to add a couple of hatches to the shooting area for quick dropping outside. Also, 2 additional hatches are led to the roof for greater mobility during PvP. And on the roof itself, there are practically no changes. The mix is moved here, and I replaced the windows with roofs more for appearance than for functionality. But don't forget about such roofs, they catch MLRs greatly. Fortunately, we're filming on the best building server, so I can now easily confirm my words in practice. Let's launch MLRs at the author's version. Now, let's repeat with my version. Of course, it's a matter of chance, and everything depends on the accuracy of the mark and the location of the MLRs. But in general, as you can see, the results differ quite significantly. And the cost of the base has increased non-critically. For 2 additional loot rooms and an improved shooting area, you'll have to pay 4,000 stone and 3,000 metal. By the way, the cost currently includes furniture items, so the surcharge here is not so much for building blocks as for additional workbench, boxes, turret, and so on. The code for this base on the Rust Room build server is in front of you. Full construction is on my Patreon page. And we're moving on, the third base. Externally, it looks big and expensive, but in fact, its cost is almost no different from the base of the first participant. 2 multi-cupboards hint at the presence of hidden bunkers in the base and the abundance of embrasures. Inside the base, the author fit an open core with 4 full-fledged loot rooms, a cupboard behind a shop, a couple of bunkers, and a whole farm on the roof. The structure of the base is as similar as possible to full-fledged trio quad bases, but costs much less. Interesting? Well, let's take a walk. There are only 2 entrances into our bases. May seem offset, bunkers are hidden here, but no, it's just a buffer to the main area. We go up and opening all doors, enter a spacious open core. Here's what it contains. 4 identical loot rooms with 4 chests each. 6 electric furnaces in triangles. 2 bunkers, each accommodating 4 more chests. It's time to descend into the main area. There are 3 compartments with garage doors, a couple of traps, and many barrels. Behind the vending machine is a cupboard that can be accessed by opening the door through textures. The author also managed to squeeze in a small box, allowing storage of the most valuable loot in relative safety. We go up and enter a very spacious shooting area. In its center is a bed and space for a battery, while on the sides are 2 lockers and mixing tables. All this is complemented by a ton of garage doors, and the shooting area itself is very simple and default, just embrasures and boxes. Unusually, there are a couple of doors like this. I could say they are fast drops down, but it's more likely to break your legs than safely save time. A couple of pixel peaks with turrets and roof shooting add variety, and since the base is built on small gaps, you can conveniently shoot the area under the base through small slits, which is undoubtedly a plus. And the exit to the top is through this stubby hatch. On the roof, as I said before, we find a farm, or rather 2 small farms, with a total of 36 planters. A couple of well-hidden turrets behind nets, a couple of barrels for loot, and 2 shooting areas. Wind turbines are set high, but in this case, it's okay, because the external cupboard's range works well. In this regard, everything is good. We've looked at the base, now it's time to hand out some treats. Here's what I liked about this base. Spacious and capacious open core. Huge number of loot rooms. Bunkers requiring 8 rockets each to breach. Good turrets on the roof. Convenient roof control from 2 sides. Ability to incorporate a safe farm without losing base protection. And that's basically it. I won't hide that, my first impression of this base was a bit inflated. It looks nice, it's convenient to use, it has plenty of space, everything is arranged quite logically and according to the canons of larger bases. But when you start to delve into the details, it becomes clear why the construction cost of the base is so different from full-fledged trio quad bases. Perhaps I have the most questions about the balance of protection in this base. There's no bunker, doors are exclusively garage doors, there are no turrets in the main area or open core. It turns out that with the dumbest door raid, you can breach the main area for just a stack of rockets. This is complete garbage. At the same time, a stability problem arises, again caused by careless attitude towards materials and base testing. If we raid the base with rockets through the doors, at some point we find ourselves in a situation where to open the HQM ceiling above us, it's enough to just shoot 1 rocket into the half-dead foundation. Not only do we automatically save 8 rockets on opening the bunker, but it also reveals an exit to the 3rd floor, allowing us to open 6 garage doors at once with 4 rockets. This includes the main bedroom and 2 loot rooms, plus the last rocket will also damage deeper garage doors. And to avoid all this, it was enough to just upgrade the foundation and a couple of frames to metal. Why upgrade the ceiling under the bunker to HQM? It's a mystery to me. If someone wants to drill it offline, be it stone or armored, they'll drill it anyway. But drawing extra attention to seemingly hidden loot rooms doesn't seem worth it, especially considering that these ceilings are visible through the window from the outside. It seems like the author upgrades the entire main area to HQM, even these 2 walls on the descent, despite the fact that you can get inside for 8 rockets through the ceilings. But at the same time, he doesn't upgrade the cupboard to HQM, and it can be broken directly for 16 rockets. And the chance of this is very high, because shooting rockets into this wall is very tempting. With all this, the frames outside the base that hold the stone shooting area are upgraded to metal. They don't hold anything important in the base. If we remove all the frames, only the embrasure windows will fall, which can be dropped by simply breaking the stone. At the same time, the roof of the base is made of stone, which means for 4 rockets we can be deprived of the main spawn point and battery. The author flatly refuses to use armored doors, but while in the previous base this was due to its low price and balance of protection, here it's not justified by anything and leads to cheaper door raids. But the author heavily uses garage doors in the shooting area, where they seem to be not needed at all. And I'm not even touching on small things, such as the lack of a way to obtain coal in the base, the absence of turrets in the open core, incorrectly rotated garage doors, allowing grenades to be thrown between floors and shoot the base owner. I'm also silent about this hatch in the half-block. Among the major flaws, in my opinion, this base lacks protected spawn points. We have only 1 bed under a stone ceiling and a sleeping bag in the main area to choose from. There's nowhere else to respawn in the base, despite it being just huge for both solo and duo, and there are more loot rooms here than windows. In general, there's a lot that can be changed in this base, but the main thing is not to make it more expensive, because the cost is already borderline for a classic base. What came out of it? Let's take a look. The base has changed significantly, both externally and internally. I tried to fix as many flaws related to the base materials as possible, and with the saved resources, I built a more interesting combat area. Of course, I kept the main concept of the roof farm and tried not to make the base less spacious. Let's take a walk. At the entrance, changes are only in materials. I put a couple of barrels downstairs, more for ease of movement than for resource storage. And to quickly bring in loot, you can also use them. The bunker is still in place, but now it won't collapse during a garage door raid and doesn't attract attention with armor. I changed 2 loot rooms to combat areas. You can replace the doors with double doors to open faster, but to avoid revealing the location of loot rooms, I left garage doors. The furnaces remained in place, but the garage door to the main area turned into armor. You can use either a double or a single version, whichever you find first. The frame, of course, became metal, as did the walls and ceiling behind the door. Downstairs, 3 classic furnaces for sulfur appeared, and in the main area, I added a second sleeping bag and clustered the barrels a bit. The walls behind the cupboard are now armored. The ascent upstairs lost its shelf. The ceiling became metal. The ceiling above the battery also became metal, doubling the cost of raiding it from above. Next to the bed, 2 hatches appeared. Protected combat areas are now still on the 2nd floor, and spawning here is positioned more as a duty, just in case. I divided the shooting perimeter into 4 sectors with garage doors. Now there are only 4 instead of 12. The floor is still fully covered by turrets, but many new peaks have appeared here. You can now peek at the roof from 6 sides at once. Narrow peaks have been added to the sides, and you can hide a couple of spare sleeping bags under the roofs to come back during a raid. You can still check the bottom of the base from small gaps, and there are now 2 ascents to the top. The roof has been completely transformed. There are now double peaks through the lower floor, and upper windows are also present. Speaking of price, there are no changes in HQM, and 4K metal turned into 6K stone. At the same time, the base became more secure on all fronts. The shooting area became more functional and diverse, and the key features remained in place. The link to the full construction of the base is in the description, and the base code on the Rust Room build server is on the screen. Now we move on to the most important part. It's time to compare the bases of today's contestants and distribute them on the top 3 podium. I still evaluate the bases according to a system of criteria, each of which considers the key characteristics of each base. The author's versions of the bases are taken into account, as we evaluate their skills, not mine. I would call the third participant an outsider here. The base is very leaky, it has stability problems, the balance of protection is poorly observed, and 16 rockets to the main cupboard and stash is quite sad. I'll give a treat to the first base. It has a good balance of protection, many stashes, and the cupboard is well protected. The second base doesn't quite reach the level of a treat, but it's also decently protected. Construction cost. This criterion includes not only the overall cost of the base, but also the average consumption percentage of the base, the cost of closing bunkers if any, the necessary components for construction, and blueprints. The undisputed leader here is base number 2. It's significantly cheaper than its competitors, doesn't require rare blueprints for construction, and the absence of multi-cupboards in this case even saves resources. I would put the other 2 bases on the same level. Consumption is well distributed among the cupboards, there are no super expensive solutions in them, they are normal bases in terms of cost. Construction difficulty. This criterion is a bit tricky. Obviously, the easiest base to build turned out to be the second one. It definitely gets a treat because it's as simple as a boot and its step-by-step construction is good. The other 2 bases use small gaps, which is a complication in itself, albeit a maximally justified one, but I'll probably give a demerit only to the first base, because building it step by step will be quite inconvenient due to the small gap being located close to the center of the base. The third participant won't get anything for this criterion. Capacity. The tightest of the bases is definitely the second one, and it's not so much about the lack of free space as it is about its improper use. The other 2 bases, in my opinion, are both comfortable enough in terms of capacity, but it would be unfair to rate them the same, because the third base clearly has many more full-fledged loot rooms, a more spacious shooting area, and is not so cluttered with double doors. In short, the third base takes a treat, and the second remains with garbage. Passive defense. This is how the base can repel a raid while you're sound asleep. The first base is quite balanced in this regard. There are gun traps hidden here and there. These guys in the grass really pleased me. I'm not sure how much use they'll be, but the fact that they're not visible on normal graphics is a fact. 4 turrets also cover the second floor well, but the downside is that the roof of this base is not protected by anything, and raiding it from above is extremely profitable. Although the turrets are directed at each other, they don't cover each other due to partitions. For a solo base, the passive defense is decent, but during a raid by at least 2 people, it will be extremely problematic to fail the raid due to turrets or traps. The second base seems to have more interesting traps that can actually stop someone or at least slow them down. But the situation with turrets is even worse here. And in general, the problem with such narrow, tall bases is that despite additional buffers, raiding them with rockets, taking down 2 floors at once is always super safe and fast. In short, I'm also leaving this base without awards. The third base. I was very disappointed that there are no turrets in the open core, and it's not really possible to put them here, otherwise the bunker won't open, but the shooting area is covered by turrets quite well. The traps also seem to have avoided cringe. In general, quite unexpectedly, it's the third base that takes a treat for passive defense. Active defense remains. The first one is definitely so-so. The shooting area here is purely nominal. The side exits also have no practical use due to the lack of direct descent through them to the second floor. In this base, you can only move resources back and forth and hope that the raider simply runs out of explosives. But to actually shoot back at the raider, this is clearly not about this version of the base. The second base doesn't feel very good for the same reason as before. The elongated structure simply doesn't allow for long defense against a raid if the raider isn't counting every rocket. There's no control between floors here, of course, as the base is too small, but at least there's a full-fledged shooting area, a protected roof, and a bunker that can play its role during an online raid too. In general, I don't see the point in pouring garbage on the base. The third base. It takes the position of parodying the adult level of bases with an open core and its defense. But despite the ideal base for good online protection, the author didn't move in this direction. There are no special peaks between floors in the base, no convenient safe combat areas, no maneuver for retail. The base is saved only by a decent shooting area. Thus, for this criterion, none of the bases gets a treat. The scorecard is filled out, and I give the floor to Jimmy, that very same unique neural network in Rust that will turn all these sweets and garbage into points. As you can see, numbers are already ticking on the counters, and meanwhile, I'll remind you that these videos are made exclusively to popularize building in Rust. Constructive criticism of bases in the comments is welcome, and if you decide to praise the authors, don't be shy. they'll definitely be happy. And who will take home the main prize today? We'll find out in a minute. According to the results of a detailed analysis, the Veles base took 3rd place. 280 points and $25 in the piggy bank. 2nd place goes to Guzzlix and his Turbo base. The base earned 328 points in the overall ranking and brought the author $50. The victory in the 3rd episode of Top 3, as you've already guessed, goes to the participant with the nickname Fast. His Vortex base received 342 points and brought the builder $75. We again see an increase in the number of points compared to the previous episode, which indicates a gradual increase in competition and improvement of bases in the video, which can't help but please. This format became possible thanks to my subscribers on Patreon. In return for your support, you get exclusive content and VIP access to the Rust Room build server. And now the nicknames of all subscribers will be listed at the end of the video. Thank you to each of you, friends.